Welcome to Running for Real, a global community with a shared love and curiosity for running. Together we reconnect with the reasons why we love to run and discover ways it helps us become better people. Whether it's the quiet moments of a morning run while the rest of the world still sleeps, or befriending the strangers next to you at the start line of a race. We are here to connect with others who see running as the common thread that weaves our lives together. Come join me, Tina Muir, as I talk with people from all walks of life, united by a love of running. Hello, my friends. Welcome to episode 338 of the Running for Real podcast. I am excited that you are here. And today we have a returning guest. You're going to hear how many times this guest has returned to the show, but I am excited to welcome my sports psychologist, actually, when I was running at the professional level, Evie Serventi. Evie has been a regular on the show. She is beloved by you in the community. Her episodes are always incredibly popular. And today she had an idea for an episode that I thought really spoke to a lot of people. And it's something we haven't addressed in detail up to this point. And that is, what if you are someone who isn't a competitive, elite, top level athlete, but you have this fire in your belly? You have something you really, really want to achieve, and you want it badly, and you want it enough to where you don't want to just do your best and see what happens. That feels a bit too light, a bit too fluffy. You really want to see what you can do, but you also recognize that you have a life and you have other things going on. You're not living like a professional athlete. So we wanted to speak directly to those people today. Now, if you're someone who doesn't have a big goal like this, that is okay. This episode is early on. We're going to speak about that as well. But I think this second half of this episode is really going to speak to those people who feel like you want something. You have something you've always dreamed of doing, and maybe you finally are finding yourself in a place where you have the time and the space to do that. And how can you get the most out of yourself without putting pressure on yourself, but also kind of giving yourself an easy out? So without any further ado, let's go talk to Evie. Thank you to Athletic Greens for partnering with Running for Real and myself and allowing us to continue the work that we are doing. Now, today I want to talk to you about Athletic Greens. This time of year, it is especially important to consider this, because not only are you getting 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, and whole food source ingredients, this comprehensive nutrition in one single scoop, which is how I start my day every day. Even if I'm going immediately out the door on a run, it doesn't upset my stomach. It just is an ideal way to start my day. You're also building a daily habit in 1 minute, and it's going to promote your gut health, support your immunity, boost your energy, and more. Not only those things, but with your order, when you sign up through my code by going to athleticgreens.com/Tina, you are going to get a 1-year free supply of vitamin D3 and K2 plus 5 free travel packs. The vitamin D element is so important this time of year for most of us. We are coming into the winter. This is a time when our vitamin D levels drop. And if you let your vitamin D levels drop too much, it's going to wreak havoc with your training and with your life. It really is so important for us to keep that, as we are not getting the vitamin D exposure from the sun. And I love that Athletic Greens has decided that they are going to give us the opportunity to put those two things together, so you have everything you need in one scoop. I love having it every morning. I know it is going to take care of my gut, take care of my immunity, boost my energy, and help with recovery through superfoods, adaptogens, and antioxidants. It's like your insurance policy, so no matter what you eat in that day, you know you have given your body nutrient-dense foods, you have taken care of it, and you can go about your day and enjoy this season. So go to athleticgreens.com/Tina to check it out. That's athleticgreens.com/Tina. Evie, this is returning. You are returning to this podcast for the 5th time, which absolutely now makes you the most what would be the term? The returning guest with the most visits. I don't know. You have been on this podcast. This is your 5th time. Excited for you to be back here. but now you hold the record. So welcome back.
Wow. #1 seed. Thanks, Tina. I feel very special, very honoured to be returning so many times. It just gives an indication of our friendship and our connection, and I guess also the importance of sports psychology, right?
Yeah. Well, and how lovable you are. That's kind of a big part of it too. People always enjoy these episodes with you.
Yeah, I feel, I mean, I have got my cup of coffee. Have you?
No, because it's 2:42 in the afternoon.
Oh, yeah. Do you know, I did that the other day. I made the mistake of having an iced latte after midday here, and it must have been 36 degrees. We've been having really, really hot summer
Which
now.
is what in Fahrenheit? I think that's like 105 or something Fahrenheit.
Double that. So that's, say, 70 and then add 30, 100. Yeah, 105, yeah.
Okay. And so
really
you just needed a nice iced drink, a nice coffee was your choice.
I did, and then I wondered why I was really wide awake that night and really wired. I couldn't sleep. Which is quite good for getting work done, but then I realised, no, not a good idea.
Yeah, no. It sounds good in that. It's just the same thing as when you like stay up. Like if you're binging something on the TV and it's like getting late and you're like, oh, I just want to finish this. I'll deal with the consequences later. And then in the morning you're like, why did I do that?
That is so true. I'm glad you mentioned that because that often happens too.
Yeah, I definitely did that the other day. Not last night, but the night before. And the morning after I was like, why'd you do that, Tina? Like you could have just watched it one more day later. Like it wasn't going to kill you. But that's just how I do it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, 5 times. Thank you. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited. And we do have an intention with this episode. You gave me some ideas of things that you thought people might appreciate or want to be interested in talking about. And we're going to get to that in a few minutes. But I want to begin with, okay, so April 22 was the last time you joined us.
Yeah.
Tell us some updates and whatever you want to share that's happened since then.
Sure. Well, I've been raising, as you know, I had children in my mid-40s, actually, and decided to take not a break from my career. I'd like to say a left turn or a right turn or a different path and raise my children for the first few years of their lives. So I've been busy doing that, and I have been working. I started to work back in 2021 in a clinical space. I moved from the UK. I'm Australian but lived in the UK for forever, which is where I met you, and moved back to Australia with my family literally the beginning of 2020, so COVID.
Yeah, it was.
Coincidentally, it wasn't intended that way. And in Australia to work here, I needed to re-register, obviously, and needed to go down the clinical path. So I'm a sport and exercise psychologist. That's my training and my qualifications and registration in the UK. But in Australia, in order to be registered, I need to get my clinical registration. So it's been exciting. I've been working in a space with children, and I'm using my skills as a sports psychologist. It's just I'm exposed to a lot of different psychological spaces here, and I'm working with children in autism and ADHD, which is really exciting and humbling. And I've finished that work now to register, and so I'm taking on clients as a sports psychologist. But also, I think I've enjoyed developing so many more skills to my skill set that I'm incorporating those. So, you know, while it's been a long road to come back to Australia and pick up working here in terms of having to re-register, it's been fantastic because I've again learned so much more, enhanced my skill set, and really had a different perspective on psychology.
Yeah,
so it's been a good time. So I'm taking on athletes and exercises, clients from all levels of all levels and abilities and sports. And, still parenting and balancing the two, which we'll talk about later. So it's exciting. And I can give you all the details for my contact details as well.
Yeah, I'll get that at the end for everyone as well. I would love to know, actually, I mean, some of this I do know because you and I talk most weeks or sometimes multiple times a week. But What has, and I don't know how much you can say in the first part of this, what has the work with children, particularly in those in on the autism spectrum with ADHD, those are quite, intense and you know, at times I would imagine difficult situations to be in, to help the parents, to help the child to thrive. So what has that taught you, maybe, that you can take forward into your work with your clients, but also as a parent? I would imagine both of those situations, well, I know this from us talking, present with a lot of like confronting what is traditionally considered success and failure. And what has that taught you about yourself, in terms of, you can look at the scientific, the logistical, the paper version, but it's different when it's like a happening to you in the moment in a context you're not used to?
Such good questions. You're getting good at this.
I hope so.
To answer your first question, what have I learned that I can transfer into my world of sport? A lot. And a lot about reflection and reminding myself, and having the ability to, in when I'm in a session with a client, always reflect on what do I need to work on with this client right now? Is what we're talking about right now helpful to this client? As a therapist, and every therapist will go through this, especially in the early days when you're starting out, it's very, very challenging work, because your confidence builds as your experience builds. So the experience gives you that competence, and the competence gives you the confidence. And when you're starting out, you really are scared, and you spend a lot of time trying to get out of your own head and into the room, and try to move away from worrying thoughts like, oh gosh, what do I need to say now? This client doesn't look happy. So there's a lot of trying to block out the noise from your own head and actually sit and concentrate and listen to what someone in front of you is saying. In the world of neurodiversity, it's very much about staying in that present moment. And really asking yourself, what do I need to see here to understand what is happening? So it's taught me to almost constantly reflect on what we're doing now. Is this working? Is this going to be useful to this client? Because when you're presented with a young person who is neurodiverse, in my eyes, I'm very affirming when it comes to autism and ADHD. So it's really, we're moving away from that old school, there's something wrong. And I'll be very frank, there's something wrong with this person, to there's something really different about the way this person interprets the world and looks at the world and communicates. So it's really taught me to be very consciously creative and work out, right, I'm not really understanding what's happening here. What do I need to do in order to see what's happening and to understand? Do I need to observe more? Do I need to listen more? Because really the person in front of me is communicating in the way that they communicate, and it's up to me to try to interpret that. And sometimes it could be, there's a lot of noise going on, and this young person is hypersensitivity. They need quiet. This young person is a little bit heightened. They need to move to come back down and to be able to sit and concentrate. So it's being really aware of the environment, what in the environment needs to be adapted and changed in order for us to be able to communicate effectively. And I think in terms of sport, it's those skills are so transferable, because it's very easy we all come into everything we do with our own thoughts, our own lives, everything going on in our world. And as a therapist, I strive to do this, which isn't always easy, but I really want that hour with this client to be theirs. So I need to leave my stuff at the door, be very present. And it's not easy, Tina. It's not human. Can't really do that. So it's, again, those skills that I've learned to just be aware of myself. How am I feeling? I'm a bit agitated. Okay, what do I need to do to then not be agitated? Because I'm seeing a client in half an hour out. What do I need to do? So it's given me a new level of perspective taking and, I guess, self-awareness. It's improved my ability to be continually self-aware and reflect to try and see what's happening in the room. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. No, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense, and you can see why that would be so important. So thank you for explaining that.
And
what about the success and failure piece?
Oh, well, you know, again, it's really, working with children and with parents has just reinforced that none of us really have a clue. we really, the way you parent is, you've got your own internal working models that you've developed as a child through your parents, the way you were raised with your parents' rules and regulations and beliefs and value systems. So the point is, we all get to a point where it's part instinctive, right? We just parent the way we feel is a good parent to be. These are the rules we want to instill. We have our own value system. But I think what it's taught me is everyone's trying to do the best they can. And it's funny, I know you've had the wonderful Steve Magnus on your podcast. And, I love I think it's his life philosophy as well as his coaching philosophy. The good enough.
Yeah.
Well, it came from the good enough parent, right? Mm-hmm. That adage where, look, you can strive to be great, and yet we do strive to be great. And if that's one of your tendencies as a person to try and always be the best and be perfect, it's those expectations are up there. But if you can be consistently good enough, which means you're going to make, I'm not going to say mistakes, you're going to act and behave in a way that you reflect on and think, I can do better than that next time. That's normal. But if you can consistently be the parent that you want to be, then I think it's a recipe for success. And I think Steve's found that too, particularly with parenting and coaching. So it's really, I've been quite humbled in that space. Mm-hmm. And, it also highlights that, we've all got our own challenges that we deal with individually, as well as then trying to be a parent. So to be emotionally available for your child 24/7 is difficult.
Yeah, you're telling me. I know that all too well.
But yours are what, 5 and 3 now? What?
Two. Chloe's 2. 2 and 5.
2. Yeah. How are you finding the 2s?
Yeah, it's a lot. I want to keep us on track here because I really want to make sure we get to this topic. Before we go to that, you mentioned about wanting to, before we go into like the being able to balance, wanting to go for it, giving it your best, and also recognizing your limits and kind of still coming to yourself with compassion. I want to get to that in a minute. Mm-hmm. But firstly, for someone who is listening who maybe isn't like you mentioned about my newsletter, I've talked about kind of being in a place, not having goals or not having specific things that you're trying to address, because the second half of this is going to be focused very much on those who do have something they really want. Mm. What would you like to talk about there in terms of what has been speaking to you in that way about life without goals or specific plans, I suppose, in someone's life and running?
Well, I think you can, in terms of running, I think, and I'll talk to you about this personally because you've been that person who's been very goal-oriented and professional, and then you've gradually become a person who's experiencing life without those specific race goals. Mm-hmm. You start to think about balance in your running, and you even question, well, what is it? What do I do with this running as part of me if I'm not outcomes focused, if I don't have those goals? I think the exciting thing is that you start to develop a new relationship with yourself, with your running. So I would suggest almost just sitting back and observing how you feel when you run. And I also think that there's a huge amount of, when you have goals, you have expectations. And when you don't have specific goals, I feel that the expectations are lower and the pressure comes off. And, as you said, sometimes people could feel quite lost without that. That's okay. I think, and then you start thinking about your running, like, oh God, well, I don't have goals. Well, what does it all mean? You can still have purpose without goals. You can still.
What do you mean by that?
So you can still have intention when you get up every morning to go for a run, and the purpose behind that run is that it's part of what matters to you in life, to be healthy. So, and that going for a run, it kind of calibrates you for the day, so it makes you feel good for the day. And it could just simply be that it makes you feel good for the day, and that that the rest of the day will have that little bit of bounce because you've been for your run. And the run can often just symbolize the fact that you've spent time for yourself. You've been out. You've had time to just be before you start your day. And there's a very good quote. She wrote it down. And I think this comes from, who did I read this? I've been looking a lot of documentaries lately, the last few months, and there might have been an NBA one, basketball documentary, and I think it was Michael Jordan's coach, Pete Jackson, who coached him through, I know, multiple NBA championships, and also Kobe Bryant. And Pete Jackson, he was known as the Zen master. Yeah. So you've got this competitive environment, and then you get this coach that comes in and suggests, before when mindfulness was the thing, go and sit and call it mindfulness or whatever you want to call it, but just go and sit and meditate and just go and sit and be. So just be. And he said, it's okay to just be neither distracted or focused, rigid or flexible, passive or aggressive. So rather than have to be something, and rather than have to have a goal with your running, it's okay to just have your running in your life. So I'm looking at that from a macro level. It's okay it's like when you have running as part of your lifestyle. Why not? You get up and put clothes on. You get up and have breakfast. Is there an intentional goal behind that? Well, it's just part of your daily routine to feed your body and nourish your body. The same with your running. And that's the way sport has been for me in the last 5 years. Since having kids and taking time out from work, I did age group competitions before that. I would say I wasn't very goal oriented even as a competitive athlete. I did try and see my sport as just part of my life and to have fun with it. But of course I had goals and I had training plans and loved having results. But then when parenting took over and, sport was fitted into my life rather than the other way around, where sport was my life, I did have to readjust my relationship with it and be comfortable with not having goals with swimming and cycling and running, and just enjoy connecting with people. So it becomes, you start to look at different aspects of what that sport gives you, what your running gives you.
Yeah.
For you it might be, I just want to smell the oxygen in that forest when I go for a trail run. I want to feel free. It could be the emotional goals more than the behavioural goals as well.
Thank you to Tracksmith for sponsoring this episode of the Running For Real podcast. Now, I've been telling you about Tracksmith for years, and I am loving those of you who are trying it out and saying that you love the quality, you love the durability, you love the comfort of these clothes. And there is a good reason for that, because they They do last. As I've mentioned before, my clothes I got in 2019 are still in the exact same condition now. And so whenever they ask me if I need new items, I usually say no, because mine are working just fine. That is one of the gifts of Tracksmith. Now, you've probably seen that Tracksmith gives a lot back to the community, and they were a huge help for me in creating the Red S recovery resource. They did support us and give us the opportunity to work hard on that. But they also give back in the community in many other ways. They have an amateur program that they are helping athletes who are trying to make the Olympic trials. So they are always doing things like that. They also offer scholarships every year for creatives in the space, which is really cool, to potentially work on their craft. They also have lots of events. And by the way, I will be hosting an event at the London Marathon. So if you will be there this year for the London Marathon and for the Boston Marathon, actually, both of those back to back, I will be there with Tracksmith. So note that down in your calendar. But if you go to tracksmith.com/Tina, you can get free shipping on your order, and 5% of your order will go to Rising Hearts, which is a really amazing nonprofit created by Jordan Marie Daniel, who you have heard on the podcast before. So go check out that Tracksmith website. My favorites right now are the Brighton base long sleeve, along with the Lane 5 shorts. Those are the two that I am wearing currently all the time in this switchover season. So go check that out. Go to tracksmith.com/Tina. Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you. Do you think at times then I have maybe not been allowing that to be, like trying to force it?
So allowing what to be? Just
that relationship with running?
I think when you were an elite professional runner, and there's always obligations outside of you when you're running professionally, right? You've got, I know your coach is your partner, your husband, but when you've got a multidisciplinary team around you supporting you, and then you've got perhaps you run for an organization or a college, it's difficult to feel like running is just yours. It starts to feel that you start to feel pressures, external pressures. And I think you can certainly have that philosophy and that approach as an elite runner, even an elite athlete, not just in running, where you keep the freedom within that sport for you in that moment, as well as having goals that you want to achieve. But again, if you focus on the most we can hope for is to create the best possible conditions for success, right? And then you let go of the outcome.
Yeah.
And that comes back to being process driven, and even having your daily goals. If you can focus on what you're going to do that day with your running and keep yourself mentally and emotionally and physically focused on achievements for that day, it's going to happen, right? That's why that's why we work with athletes to try and rein them in from looking at that 6-month goal.
Yeah.
They feel this massive level of anxiety straight away, like with that huge goal at the end of 6 months, because from here to there is this massive canyon of things to achieve. And so, of course, it's anxiety provoking if, you start thinking about, God, I've got to run what? 5.5 minute miles for 26 miles. Yeah. What? I remember you having those conversations with you. It might have been before the London. Was it?
Oh, yeah.
I remember saying to me once, Evie, I seriously, and it might have been, you were probably halfway through those blocks of training for that one. And I remember it, you said to me, I kind of had this moment in my run today where I was thinking, because it might have been interval training, and you said, I have to run at this pace, which was effortful, let's call it effortful, intense, for 26 miles. How on earth am I going to do that? Do you remember what I said to you?
No. Something about doing my best. And I think, was it like about being the mile that you're in? Like, Yeah, is this one of the key pieces that I pass on to other people now of like, okay, I'm in mile 15. Do I feel like I'm mile 15 effort? Yeah. Okay. Then that's where I need to be. But otherwise, if it wasn't that, then I don't remember.
Well, it was, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. It was all of that. But I think that the thing that I helped you think about was, I said to you, well, you're not going to be able to. And you looked at me, went, what? I said, well, you won't be able to right now. Because right now, you're not there.
Mm-hmm.
You're 6 months off, or so 8 months or whatever it was. You're not. You're not supposed to be doing that right now.
Yeah.
And that's the part where Steve's philosophy comes in as well. Consistently good enough. So if you knock those training runs down over every day, every other day, whatever your training plan is, then there's a reason we do something there's 7 days a week, and we have those goals, something on every one of those days, because you accomplish those, you put them together for a month, and then you put those months together for 6 months, the outcome takes care of itself. So it is difficult, though, to, again, have that balance even mentally, to be okay with where you're at right now and not freak out thinking, well, yeah, look, I'm doing okay, but you know what? Like, if you're doing an Ironman, like, how am I going to do 12 hours at this intensity? You know.
Yes. So this works nicely into what I did want to talk about in terms of most people listening on, maybe training to run for their country or do something for their country, but they have a race coming that is really important to them. They've been training hard. They have been trying to work on the mental side of things. They're doing what they can. Well, not perfectly. I want to add in here, I recognize that most of you, you are juggling maybe a family or a full-time job or taking care of an elderly parent or whatever it might be. Like, you're not doing this perfectly. That's fine. That's not realistic to expect you to implement your training like an elite athlete. But someone who tries really hard, is working and focusing on their training, but now, exactly as we were just talking about here, they're in their training and they're thinking, how in any world am I going to be able to run this pace for the whole time? I just can't even think about it. So let's talk about that, about wanting this really bad when they don't need to be doing this. They're not doing it for a paycheck. They're not doing it for a sponsorship. They're not doing it for any reason other than because they want it. But the question of like, can I do this, keeps popping up.
Well, that's a good question to ask yourself, and to, the first thing I would say is don't avoid not thinking about it. Now, whatever thoughts come into your head, they come in, they're not, I'm very much, one of my therapies that I work with athletes is acceptance and commitment. So I help athletes try and accept, again, acceptance is a huge part. So try and accept the thoughts that come in and not judge them. They're not positive, they're negative, but let's face it, a lot of thoughts come into your head that do freak you out. Oh my God, they're not very helpful. When that happens, be curious about them. So that question comes in, how am I going to do this? And be curious with yourself and say, well, it's interesting, I'm wondering this right now. And then ask another question. Why am I doing this? Do I really want to do why did I sign up to do this race? And think back about that, around that time, and what led you to do that? What factors in your life at that time motivated you to sign up for that? And it could be that you need a reminder that, I lost a really, really close relative to cancer. And when this race came up through the cancer charity, this 10K race, it hit me. I remember that day, it actually physically punched me in the stomach, and I knew I had to run this. So reflecting back on those reasons, and it comes back to your why and your purpose. But again, it's just actually sitting down and asking, and even writing down those questions, because 24/7 life is fast and busy. And while we can do our best to want to stay in the moment and, not fill every minute of the day with something, it's difficult to do that. So I would use those moments as an opportunity. So when a question pops into your head and you think, God, that session was excruciating, how am I going to do this? go back to why you signed up and why you made that goal. And also, we've done this before too, a sense check, do a body scan, and actually physically question it and think about, well, actually, I mean, you might not, do heart rate running. You might run purely just by perceived effort. You might run purely by a watch. Whatever method you use, sit back and think about it. Right, physically, am I actually feeling physically okay? I had a cold last week. Maybe I'm still coming out of that. My immune's a bit low. How's my nutrition? All those performance factors. Just run through it in your head. Look, I've been going to bed late every night because I've been watching, 3 episodes of whatever it is you're watching. And I know I beat myself up in the morning, but I actually it's actually starting to affect either how I feel physically through training or actually my motivation. So, yeah, I need to put a bit more effort into the sleep part of my life, or nutrition, or communication with loved ones. How's the family going? What's happening at home? I mean, really well, all those things come into how you run, Tina. And I remember, I know you won't mind me saying this, was it back in 2016 you lost was it your grandma? I remember, and it might have been the year later, or no, maybe not that long, but it might have been you asked me that question about, this is really tough, but I know that you'd been through a huge emotional time, and we talked about how emotionally when you go through different experiences in your personal life and in your professional life, just in life, they can really have an impact on your performance. And it doesn't have to be. You might think it's having an impact physically on your performance, like you're not making your times, but the reason behind that is often because you've been through an emotional ordeal, or you are going through that, or you've had some really high level mental projects at work which is really taxing you. So it's important to always remember that it's not so. Running is, the layers behind it are complex. It isn't just physical.
That's so true.
We bring all our emotional experiences and our mental experiences to that race and to that run every day.
So true. What about for someone who, feels like this is a period they have prioritized their training. They don't want to, I know that I see this with so many people. They really want a goal. They want something, and like, I'm just going to do my best isn't enough. They want to like go for it. And they feel motivated and they feel driven and they feel ready to do this. But they can't help, though we talked about expectations, they can't help those, like, I just so badly want to do this. And you probably remember me from this, like, my earlier marathons, like I just so badly want to break 240. Like that was fit for me, but maybe it's, maybe it's not that for someone listening, but like they feel very determined to do this. They are prioritizing this, and saying, I'm going to just go out there and do my best doesn't feel enough for them. What would you say there, like to that person in their training as they're going along?
And as you say, they want that fire in their belly, right? And I was talking about this with someone I've been working with for a couple of years, and she was saying she's got this race coming up and really committed to it. Has a family, has a job, has all the other things that take up a lot of energy, and really, again, has worked really hard with the self-compassion and not being kind to yourself, which is really important. But as you say, finding that sweet spot of competitive, people label it as anger, or competitive drive, or just competitive motivation and fire to want to really go out there and give it their all. And that, I will just go out there and do my best. And I think what we're doing is trying to not set ourselves up to be disappointed. So we say we're just going to go out and do our best. because we don't want to almost put it all out on the table and risk not doing our best or not getting the result you want, right? So there's a vulnerability to it. I think for people...
Wait, there's a vulnerability to saying I'm just going to do my best, or by not saying that?
I think there's a vulnerability by saying I'm going to go out there and give it my all.
Okay.
But isn't that doing your best? So how do we even...
doing your best to most people seems a bit fluffy, right?
Exactly.
I'm just going to do my best. Like, I know when I say that, I can feel people rolling their eyes at me. Like, that feels different to I'm going to give it my all, to me at least.
Yeah, right. So that's a really important part of this. Again, what's your perception of doing your best? And I think when I say that in the past, it's been like a buffer. I'm trying to allow myself to not have to go out and give it my all, eyeballs out. I'm just going to go out and do my best. And I'm also trying to set myself up for success by not failing. I want to get to the end of that race and not be disappointed in myself. So I'm trying to talk myself into, I'm just going to do my best because that's it. I can't do any more. Well, isn't giving it your full effort?
That's true.
Isn't that doing your best? The point is, words and language, we say so many things throughout our training and we kind of don't almost know what we're actually saying. What we're thinking is one thing and what we're meaning, what happens is another. So I think for someone who's, they're not professional, they might be doing age group, they might be doing masters, they might be, they're serious, they're committed to their running.
Mm-hmm.
Even don't say anything. Focus on, again, go internal. Why? Think about, look, I know what I'm doing. I want to go and I want to do this race because I feel I deserve to do it. I've been doing this training and maybe I want to show myself what I can do. That's one that a lot of people, particularly that are quite new to running or not as experienced, it is all out of their comfort zone. They don't have experience with those outcomes and with results. So, it is just, look, I'm going to go out there and do my best, which means to them, I want to go out there knowing that I've done all I can with my training, that I've enjoyed my training. I'm going to go out there with excited nerves, in a challenged state. I'm going to go out there and not worry about how fit other people look. And really give myself the opportunity to enjoy this race and give myself the best chance for success and run as fast as I can.
What if to someone that sounds a bit too like they feel like they need that like you said, fire in the belly, or like they need that like anger in there, and that sounds a bit too kind of, I want to enjoy myself. Well, I don't want to enjoy myself. I want to, obviously they understand on a logistical level that that's why they do this, but like, I want this to hurt. I want to like they feel like they need that extra dig down to really get to their potential. And what you're saying is like, okay, well, that's great, but it's, that's getting me off the hook kind of thing.
Yeah. And that's what I was talking about with this athlete, because she knows herself and she's been doing a lot of mental work and she's a coach herself. And she said to me, I don't want to miss the opportunity of actually potentially getting a result, getting a podium. I know I can do it. I don't want to settle. I don't want to go out there and just settle. And that's when I talked about this with you, this balance, finding that sweet spot. Well, you can only rely on yourself for that, right? Like you've got social media, so you've got your support network, you've got your friends and your family, and you can, if you're the sort of person who needs that external help, that external motivation to help you feel fired up, you can ask your family and friends to encourage you, to say, look, you've got this, you're going to go out there and you're going to crush, you're going to, all the words you need to hear. But Tina, sometimes that has the opposite effect, right? Like sometimes people, I know before really important races, people say to you, oh, how you feeling?
Yeah.
You're going to do really well. And you kind of, not you personally, but I'm sure it's happened with you as well. You do sort of start to think, oh, it just starts to highlight.
Yeah, I don't like that. No.
But it's not, it's life, right? People, they mean well. They don't know that you don't want to talk about it. But if that's what you need, you say, guys, or you just say, you change the subject. So you say, it's exciting. So how have you been? Deflect it, change the subject, right? Without trying to hurt someone. You're not intentionally trying to hurt their feelings by saying, please don't talk about this and make me feel like I'm having a panic attack.
Thank you to Orlo for sponsoring this episode of the Running For Real podcast. Now, you've been hearing me talk about Orlo lately, and that is because this is a product I have been taking for a few months now. I am really appreciating the fact that I can take care of my brain health, my heart health, my immune system function with these supplements made of algae. They are sustainably made. They absorb 3 times better than fish oil. And I think they are much easier to take down when you don't have to be concerned about having fishy burps after taking them. I have really been enjoying taking them. And as February is Heart Health Month, I wanted to talk to you about that because we as runners quite often think, well, we're exempt from all of this. But heart disease targets women, and cardiovascular health, our circulatory health, our recovery post-exercise, even though we run, doesn't necessarily put us out of any kind of danger. So I want you to think about the fact that by taking care of your omega-3s, making sure your omega-3s are topped up, you are looking after your heart, your brain, your immune system, and you're giving yourself the best chance at long-term health. And as it is heart health, I really encourage you to go check out more about that. Now, you can go to Orlo Nutrition, that's ORLO nutrition.com. And if you use code TINA, that will give you 12% off. Now, I mentioned already that these are sustainably made. And if you go to the Orlo website, you will see all about these, all about their plant where they make these supplements. And it is beautiful, it is sustainable, it is carbon negative. And I encourage you to go check that out because it's really cool to see. So go to orlonutrition.com/discount/Tina, or just use code Tina at orlonutrition.com to get yourself 12% off and go take care of you and your health. I'm just trying to think, what about the opposite where I didn't like to talk about those things? But I also want to address, I come across this all the time where I have friends who are going into a race and training's gone well. And I had this with, I don't know if you remember one of my marathons, everything went smooth. And it was the one I struggled in a lot mentally and physically. Like training's training has gone really well. You feel good. And like the athlete or myself or whoever almost seems excited. Like I'm ready for this. But usually what happens when I see this, and the funny thing is now, Evie, and I'm sure you feel the same way, I can always tell when a friend is going to have that bomb race. Because I can see the mindset of like, not this is going to be easy, but I'm so fit, I'm so ready. What could go wrong almost?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that, because I think it would be good for someone to think about this going into a race. If you are feeling good and things have been going well and your training has shown new potential, what do you want to say to listeners out there to remind themselves going in? Because I just see it so predictably now, and I can't even tell what it is. I think it's something about just like, I don't want to say it's like overconfidence, but it's just very much like I'm ready, I'm fitter than ever, I've got this kind of thing.
And it's such a good question because, look, let's face it, we're all individual, Tina, and there are people out there that they are almost, you're thinking, they're so naive. They have no idea what this is about. But that works for some people, okay? Some people need to, I mean, and look, depending on the race, like if it's a 5K or a 10K or if it's a fairly straightforward event, it doesn't actually really matter. It's all relative. So someone might actually feel that for them to feel prepared and to feel as comfortable as they can leading up to the start of this race, they just don't want to know don't want to think about what's going to happen. They are just focusing on the fact that, training went really well and I actually feel pretty good. What I would say is, the more you practice in training, where things can go, questioning things that can go wrong, the more prepared you're going to be. And
you'd say that across the board, that would help everyone.
I think so. And I think, I don't think it's great to be confident, it's great to be positive, but it's also great to be educated around what you're about to do, the task ahead. So, I mean, I know you've done this a lot. We did lots of if-then.
I found that really helpful. Yeah.
Well, it's about developing the overall concept is developing psychological flexibility. What's really important to do is in that actual event, be able to, if things suddenly aren't going as you thought they would or as you assumed they would, all of a sudden in the race, if you're experiencing a moment where, holy moly, this isn't how I thought it would be, it's really, really important to be able to have flexibility mentally, which then feeds into behavior. So you can adapt physically. Okay, so it might be, all right, I need to slow down. It could be, I need to actually tighten my shoelaces. It could be, I need to drink. It could be, I need to get a grasp on my breathing. So it could be all of those things or one of those things. But I think the if-then strategies. So again, looking at what you can, solutions for things that could potentially go wrong. If I find all of a sudden I'm really overwhelmed and starting to have those thoughts in my head about, oh God, this isn't, I'm starting to wobble. What's my solution? So write it down. On one side, this is what could happen, and write down what the solution could be. And it could be, okay, take a few deep breaths, back off very slightly, remind myself I chose to do this race, remind myself I'm okay. Again, go inward. It could be go outward. So if you're someone that, is quite responsive to the environment, look at the crowds, have your name on your shirt, get them to, wave to people, smile. People will call out to you. People, will shout your name. I remember telling you when I did the New York Marathon years ago, and I was really struggling. I think it was probably only mile 16. And this kid ran past me, a young person ran past me wearing a fridge, obviously not a heavy fridge. Like they were a fridge. And I thought, freaking hell, man, if this, like I can run across this Verrazano bridge, I can do this. What is going on? But it's just, and then I heard my name from someone in the crowd because I had it on my shirt, and it was, "You've got this, Evie. You're looking strong. You can do this." And honestly, that person spoke to me because that's what I needed to hear at that point. They had no idea that they saved me in that run. No, it was one of those sweet spots, one of those moments where it snapped me back into my challenge state of feeling confident but nervous, but accepting that it's going to hurt, but knowing that I can do it, reflecting on all the training. So, yeah, I think I've gone off piste here. What were we talking about?
Well, I actually have something I wanted to ask to kind of bring you back.
Okay.
Those if-then statements, which I found really helpful for some, you feel you're at mile 2 and your legs feel like lead, like from spiraling. Like, how do you stop yourself from going like, well, this is done. I'm not going to make it. I'm going to just stop, or this is not my day, whatever. Having the kind of, what should I do? Having rehearsed it essentially.
Yeah.
But for someone listening who thinks, well, I don't want to do that because then I'm calling those things into existence. Like I don't want to think about my stomach being upset because that's my greatest fear. Why would I want to think about that? What would you say then?
That's a good question. So I would think about, the first thing I would ask is, okay, what's going on with this? So if it's your stomach, or if it's, you might get muscle pain early in a race. So actually physically, well, have you had that addressed? Like, is that something that physiologically you need to get some help with from someone? Because that's always the first thing. You know, our mind is one part of our performance, but physically, you know, your mind is smart. It could be that actually you've got anxiety or trauma around stomach issues because your stomach plays up. So have you explored that further? You know, is it nerves? Have you experienced or sought the help of a coach or a nutritionist or a doctor? You know, is there something actually going wrong there? You know, is there something that you can do physically to try and mitigate that before you then have to worry about it not happening? You know, so find, because there will be, you know, and that's actually I don't know if you agree, but that's something that I come across a lot. Yeah. It's really with endurance, stomach. It's a huge issue, getting it right, you know, the nutrition. And people really have to experiment and work hard at trying things out in training to try and, you know, mitigate that happening in the race. I mean, if it's nerves, obviously I work with, you know, you can work on your pre-race preparation. And I would say thinking about things that could go wrong and then having a solution for them, it can be anxiety provoking, but the outcome of that afterwards is that mental rehearsal, so more reassurance of if that happens in the moment, you can deal with the anxiety more effectively. And it doesn't have to be, you know, in your list, you don't have to be specific and say, what if I trip over, and then have a solution for that? But it could be, what if I start to have thoughts about tripping over? You know, it's because often it's just the mental wobbles start playing on your mind, and that then affects you physically. But I find it helpful.
Yeah, me too.
To be able to have that flexibility under pressure is difficult to achieve, but the only way to do it is to practice in training. You know, we have there's a method called pressure training. So really replicate pressure in a training environment to try and then make it effective in the actual environment of pressure. It's difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. I really encourage people to try it out, especially if you haven't already. Like, especially if you are someone we've been talking about today who really wants this. By you not doing that, you are absolutely neglecting a critical piece of your training. And for me, the people I see who want something really bad, particularly if they've had like a big injury or a setback or a baby or something that has kind of kept them away for a while, they feel like they want it more, which is great, but then they don't do that final piece and then forget how hard it was, or something goes wrong and they're just like kind of like, oh well, this wasn't my day, I'll try again. So it's a way of like pulling yourself out of that. So anything else you want to add on that?
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think the more you can think about in training while you're preparing for the race, the more you can think about the race and all aspects of it. Oh, you know that you've looked at the route. There's a big hill. So think about running up that hill. And, you know, this is where imagery and visualization can come into it. But the more you try and put yourself in that race and rehearse, the more familiar it will be when you are in that race. And familiarity can reduce that level of anxiety and also increase that feeling of competence to cope with it. So it's really just trying to find strategies that will help you stay in the moment of that race and not be too impacted by something, you know, negative that might happen. And I think though, for coming back to that, that's trying to find that sweet spot And
Mm-hmm.
again, and so that perfect recipe of fire and a feeling of, I mean, it can feel like anger, but it's actually adrenaline. So you're feeling, that hormonal surge of, I really want this, to balancing it with, I'll do my best. All of it's doing your best, Tina, and I would say really focus on the process. You've done the focus on the training. And then when you've done the training, that's the evidence. That's your homework. You've done the homework. You've got the evidence of your training. You can't shy away from that. So whatever anxiety that comes up, at the start line, oh God, what am I even doing here? Reflect, right? Well, I've done the training and I've ticked it off. It's all done. That's evidence. That's real. It's not imagined. So I deserve to be here. I belong here, and I'm going to give myself every opportunity. And you can, you see people all the time at the elite level. Just when you watch races that are broadcast or you're present at the track, it's so interesting to watch athletes at the start line, right? Some of them are inward and just, like look at Michael Johnson, right? Like he was in his own, he was setting up his war zone. Like he was going to conquer that race. He did not talk to anybody. And others are the opposite. Hey, come on, this is going to be great. And they're all about that external. That's what's giving them that anxiety lowering feeling, right? They're just, they need to distract themselves and be outward, but some people need to be inward. So again, it's looking at knowing yourself, really getting to know yourself, and that you can do in training, right? And that's part of that. The if then list, that's one thing. And if that people don't really want to do that because it's anxiety provoking, just know yourself, start to learn about yourself. And then anything physical like stomach or I used to get that. What's that thing where in your lower legs? It's a compartment syndrome. You start to run and your lower legs feel like lead. Start to feel.
No, compartment syndrome is like a really serious thing that requires surgery where you.
Oh God.
Yeah. I doubt you had compartment syndrome. That definitely doesn't come and go. It'd just be probably cramps, I'd imagine.
Yeah. And I used to wear compression socks, which would help. But then I used to find what used to work was, I had to roll the socks down while I was warming up, because I think that the anxiety and being tense would exacerbate it. So I learned, okay, I need to roll them down and then loosen up my legs, and then literally before the gun would start, or the start of the race, pull them up, and then I was right. But, that was trial and error. But again, it's just being aware and being flexible, being able to pivot, like being able to psychologically pivot.
So
and think,
true.
right, do something different.
Thank you, Evie. That's really helpful, and I encourage people to give that a try if you haven't already, especially if you have something important to you. Because I mean, really, what do you have to lose? Like we've said, it if you're not prepared to kind of face that anxiety in a calm moment, how are you going to do it when it comes to a stressful moment when your body is like at its max in terms of what it can handle? So thank you for that. And that's just one of the many things in your toolbox. You did mention that you are working with clients. And I know we've done this before, but just one more time for someone who's saying, okay, well, elite athletes have psychologists, sports psychologists. I'm not that. What would you like to say to that person if they have an important goal?
As in, what can they do to try and improve their...
Well, just like, why is it not just for elite athletes?
Oh, elite athletes, what's the difference other than the fact they're, running for an organisation or running for different goals, different external, there are other motivations for them to run. They're still people. Everyone's the same. We all have the same... We're all human, so our physiology is not the same, but we're all made up of a template. We all have our value system. We all have our purpose and our reasons for wanting to run, and it's no different. What's important to you in your life, and the reasons you want to get up and take time for yourself for an hour and train and and then choose to not be with family at other times because you want to train, that's all down to you and your choices. And you're entitled to have those. And those things, there might be a race that's really important to you because, again, it could be very personal. It could be that, you have a friend that can't run anymore and is gutted and wants to run. So you want to run for them. Or it could be a medical, linked to something medical that's happened to someone close to you. I think we all deserve to do our best and to want to do a race. It doesn't matter what level. It's all relative, isn't it?
So true. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you. And I will put information in the show notes for how people can contact you in the future, because I think it is so important. And I've mentioned so many times you are one of the three-legged stool that held me up. You were one of the three legs. So I wouldn't have done it without you. And
very kind.
Thank you for joining me once again, time number 5. I appreciate you being here and all that you do for our community, and can't wait to hear what the next update we have has.
I love the community, and I'm going to be obviously going back to more full-time work eventually, but I want to apologise. I haven't been very active on the community, and
please don't apologise.
I'm apologising to everyone really, and myself, but no, I'd love to be more active as well. And I know we did a Q&A a couple of times, and just to be there for people that are being brave enough and motivated enough to be part of a community. And I think that's a really important thing to mention as a final thing.
Sure. Never
underestimate the power of your community, your network, with anything you do. It's really important. And some people need their community to hold them accountable and to help motivate them. Some people don't. Some people just need, it's enough for them to know that there's someone out there that will hold them accountable. There's different levels of perceived support, and that's really important to, again, what works for me? What do I want? What sort of support, in inverted commas, do I need? Do I actually need someone physically to be there, or do I need to know that someone's there if I need them? Because both are hugely important, but have quite different impacts on different people. So that's it.
True. Evie, once again, thank you for joining me, and I can't wait for next time you come back.
Oh, well, it's been so wonderful, as always, to drink my morning cup of coffee with you, Tina, and, to share some little golden nuggets of knowledge and even just reflections and questions. I think it's really important to sit with someone and talk. And, I learn so much from you as much as, you learn about psychology through our talks. So thank you. Thanks to everyone for listening. And I hope to speak to you another time for number 6.
Yes, bring you back for number 6. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
The Running for Real podcast and everything we do here at Running for Real would not be possible if it wasn't for the Running for Real team. While I am the person who you hear from most often and maybe the face of the brand, the rest of our team are such critical pieces of what we do, and without them, I think I'd just be running around in circles with ideas. So I want to take a moment to thank our team. To Jeremy Nessel, who's been with me since the very beginning. Kat McKay, Sally Pontarelli, Kelsey Wang, Sandy Gutierrez, Louise Murphy, Andrew Basola, Alexandria Will, and Maria Vargas. Thank you to each and every one of you for all that you give to Running for Real and our community. I appreciate you, and I'm so thankful for having you as a part of the team. So thankful to you, Evie, for joining us. Now, I still don't know the word. The guest who has joined us the most on the Running for Real podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. It was a bit different. It was a bit pointed, but I hope that spoke to you, as it's something I get asked about all the time, or I recognize all the time. And I really want to help to allow you to achieve your potential without kind of going into it like, I gotta do this, and it puts so much pressure on. I want to encourage you to go check out the links in our show notes, which you can find at runningforreal.com/episode 338. You can also find a way to contact Evie there if you would like to work with her, as well as links to our partners for today. That is Orlo. You have heard me talking about their omega-3 supplements, which are 3 times better absorbed than fish oil. And they are good for brain health, for heart health, for immune system function, all things that we need and particularly important for us as runners. You can go to the link in the show notes, or you can use code TINA to get 12% off at orlonutrition.com. I also want to thank Athletic Greens. You can go to athleticgreens.com/Tina to get that 1 year free supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 plus 5 free travel packs. Athletic Greens, as I've told you, is the one habit I actually keep every single day. And finally, to Tracksmith. Thank you to Tracksmith for supporting us. You can go to tracksmith.com/Tina to go check out some of my favorites, and 5% of whatever you spend will go to Rising Hearts, as well as you will get free shipping. I want to thank you for joining me today. I will see you on Monday for a Together Run, and next Friday for a regular episode. I'll see you then.